This is the Light Phone, an ultra minimalistic dumb phone that's supposed to help you stop infinite scrolling. There's basically no apps on there except for your phone, your camera, maps, and music. It's so close to being the perfect dumb phone, if only you could put on some custom apps on there. So I fixed it. With a few pretty simple modifications, which I'll show you how to do at the end of the video. I can launch Spotify through this button here. I can read books through this button here. And if I double tap, then I launch Messenger. So I've been using this phone for about 2 weeks, and I want to share my thoughts of what they get right, what they get wrong, and how I've upgraded it to be almost the perfect dumb phone. But first, let me talk about the phone itself and what this company is trying to do. So the Light Phone 3 is designed by this company called the Light Company, and their goal is basically to kind of work in the opposite direction of most modern phone companies. They're trying to make their phones as much of a utility device as possible. So they don't want you to be able to install any social media apps. They don't want you to be able to install any sort of entertainment. They just want their phone to be a single-use device where it just serves the single purpose. And as someone who's been basically using a dumbed-down iPhone for the past 2 years, using a dumb phone really does improve your life. It's given me hundreds of hours back to do the things I'm passionate about, like building a business, spending time with family and friends, and even learning Japanese. Which is why I was curious to get the Light Phone in the first place, especially compared to this nearly 3-year-old iPhone mini that I've been using. In terms of the build quality, it's super nice and high quality. It has this industrial design where it has exposed screws, and it also comes with this Japanese-made steel case that you can put your phone in or use it for anything else. In my opinion, it looks super beautiful and is really nice to hold. It has a matte screen, which I really appreciate. Speakers on the bottom, dial that's really satisfying that controls the brightness, and you can also activate the flashlight with that. And on the right, you have 3 buttons. So the button on the bottom is kind of like the iPhone, where it can access the camera. You have the volume buttons, and this is the home button on the right here. On the back, there's 1 camera, and also put on a MagSafe ring, so I can put on my car if I'm driving, or I can use some stands. On the top is the power button, and there's actually a fingerprint sensor that they disabled for now, but I'm going to show you how I enabled it later on in the video. In terms of the apps that are on the phone and that they allow you to customize, it's basically just phone, camera, music, notes, and maps. You can only add or remove apps through their website portal, which I kind of like the idea of because you have to be more intentional about the apps that you want on your phone, but there really aren't that many options. I would say that the camera is better than I expected, but it's pretty bad if you compare it to an iPhone. It's probably at the level of an iPhone 5, I would say. This is what the Light Phone looks like and what it sounds like.
You want to be closer?
Yeah, so this is what it looks like and sounds. And this is a 3-year-old iPhone mini, what it looks and sounds like. The maps and directions were a little bit clunky for me to use. Like, to look up stuff, you have to use a different app than the directions app. But I was able to drive with it, and it did get the job done. With messages, they only allow you to use SMS, which is fine if you're in the US, but is pretty unrealistic if you contact anyone outside the US, like I do with WhatsApp, Messenger, and Signal. And also, you can't use Spotify or any other apps for music and podcasts. This phone also doesn't support QR codes, which makes it a little bit unrealistic to use as your main and only phone. Like, whether we like it or not, QR codes have basically become a pretty important part of society, like going to restaurants. Even at immigration, there's times I had to fill out a form using a QR code. And so it's really not that realistic to only use this phone as it is right out of the box without any customizations. Even though I agree with the company's philosophy of trying to make your phone a utility device, I don't really like the idea that they want to lock it down for you and to make that decision for you. So that's why I really like the modern dumb phone setup that I have on my iPhone mini that I've been using for the past 2 years. It looks pretty similar to the dumb phone, but the difference is that I can customize the apps that I want on here based on the apps that I know don't distract me. So, reading books on my phone, it's not distracting. Using Signal or WhatsApp, it's not distracting for me. As somebody who really appreciates single devices, like I have a e-reader, I have an iPod Nano that I use quite a lot. I really like the idea that there is a phone out there that has no other purpose than being a minimalistic phone. But when you lock down a phone so much as they have, it really makes it more of a nuisance to use than it is a benefit. The company did say that they're going to bring essential apps like rideshare and also messaging apps to the Light Phone, but honestly, it doesn't seem like a very high priority for them, and based on their track record, they move at a very, very slow speed. Luckily, there is a hidden way they can do to install apps, and I'm going to show you how to do that to make this pretty much the perfect dumb phone. So the operating system that they use is called Light OS, but it's actually just running on top of Android. So All you have to do is to boot into Android and you can install any apps that you want on there. There are other tutorials on the internet that show you how you can do this, but they all want you to install a custom launcher, which kind of defeats the purpose of the Light phone because it removes that really minimalistic interface. So I'm going to show you how you can install those apps and launch them from Light OS and not have to use a custom launcher. I also have a written guide on my website right here, and also update it if anything changes. All right, so the first step and the hardest step is to boot into Android. So depending on when you get your Light phone, there currently is a very simple way to boot into Android, but they really don't want you to do this, and they recently patched this. So there's a different method, which involves using an NFC card, but I'll link that in the website, which is a little bit more complicated. So if you press up, down, home, it restarts. And once it restarts, you'll see this. And for the home app, you want to select Quick Step, which is stock Android. And so it'll kind of look like this. So this is the hardest part because they're actively trying to patch this. But there's a community of people online on Twitter and Reddit trying to actively find the latest methods. So I'll try to keep that updated on my website as well, or you can check out those subreddits directly. All right, so once you're in Android, the second step is to enable developer settings. So what you do is you open up settings, you go to the little number right here, and you tap this 7 times. And once you do that, it's going to say you are a developer. So you can see mine says you are already a developer. Go back to the search, type OEM unlocking, and you want to enable this, which enables the bootloader. The third step is to customize some settings. So if you want the fingerprint sensor to work, which it's currently not working on Light OS, you can enable it right here. So if you just go to fingerprint, you can add your fingerprint, and then you can use the fingerprint sensor on the top. Next, you want to go to display and make the display size and text the smallest setting. And the next setting is gesture navigation. So with gesture navigation, you want to make sure the navigation mode is with gestures. The next step is to download Aurora Store. So because this is a unofficial version of Android, it doesn't have Google Play services. So the only way to install apps easily is to use a unofficial Google Play Store client. Just go to auroraos.com. You can download it right here. Release, download the APK, and then once it's downloaded, install it. For me, it's just an update because I already have it installed. So once you have Aurora Store installed, then you can install apps. From the Aurora Store, you can download the messaging apps I use or Spotify, which I also have downloaded. I also recommend downloading another launcher for when you boot into Android. So the one I use is called Before Launcher, and it looks pretty similar to the Light phone setup. A different app store that you can download is called F-Droid, and it's a bunch of open source software. So I also use F-Droid to download my favorite e-reader app, which is called Co-Reader. I also recommend downloading the Google Keyboard because it allows you to make a few customizations to make your keyboard a little bit more minimal, like I have here. All right, so the fifth step now is to download an app called Keymapper, which is an essential app. So you can download that either in Aurora Store or F-Droid. This allows you to customize the buttons here, so you can launch apps just by double clicking it or long pressing it. And the first shortcut you want to add is a way for you to access the Android layer. So for example, I'll press the button on the left. I'll make it a double press. And then the action I'll do is launch before launcher. All right, so once you've done this, then it'll be really easy for you to access the Android layer whenever you need to make some customization. From here, you can also customize the other shortcuts for the other apps. All right, so once you've set all that up, then you can safely boot back into Light OS and still use those apps. So if I long press the left button, I get Spotify. If I long press the right button, I get my e-reader. And if I double tap it, then I launch Messenger. And if I double tap the camera button, then I get the QR code scanner. And this really makes it the perfect dumb phone because I still have that really minimalistic interface. I still don't have any social media on there, and there's nothing distracting. After I installed these 3 apps, this phone has really been really nice to use, and I really enjoy bringing this out and using it as a dopamine detox phone. But there are still some limitations, and that's why I say that this is almost the perfect dumb phone and not really the perfect dumb phone. Because first, there's no Google Play services, so if you install any Google apps, there's going to be some issues. Second is that there are some carrier limitations, and there's no RCS. The third is that the full price of this phone is $800, which doesn't really make any sense. I think the reason they price it $800 is just so that they can have a discount on it so that it looks cheaper. Like when I got it was $400, and I think it's still on discount right now. But there's just no way that this phone is actually worth $800. Like my Apple Watch, which I've talked about before in a different video, does everything that this phone does except for a camera and more for a cheaper price. For me, the way I see the Light phone is more as an alternative if I want to unplug on the weekend versus a complete replacement for my phone. If you're interested in seeing how I use my Apple Watch as a dumb phone or seeing how I reduce my screen time by 8% on my iPhone mini, I'll put the videos up. You can check those out, and I'll see you over there. Let's get it.